All right, well, I'm going to call myself out there for getting a little bit excited about these men's novice eights that are about to kick off here and have just pushed off the line. Again, still connected. In lane 1, Washington State. Lane 2, UC Davis. Lane 3, Michigan Rowing Association. Lane 4, Orange Coast College. Lane 5, Purdue. And lane 6, MSU. And this should be an exciting race. All boats.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, all boats still connected as we push off the line, only about 40 seconds in. So as soon as we hit that minute or so mark, we should see these boats start to kind of settle into their base pace and see what happens from here.
Yeah, and just, beautiful overhead shot. Again, with these semifinals, the progression for the ACRA Championships is a little bit difficult to follow, but I'll let you know what's going on here in the men's novice 8. Because we had so many boats entered, we progressed through the heats and then came into the semifinals here today. So the first 2 semifinals that we'll see are progression into the grand final or the B-level final. So right now, the top 3 boats here will move on to the grand final, with the remaining 3 moving on to the petites. And this is going to be a hot race, I think, all the way down the race course. Right now, early on, your leader will be Michigan, rowing out of lane 3. They are sitting with about a 6-seat advantage over Orange Coast. So Orange Coast rowing out of lane 4. Orange Coast and UC Davis really close to each other. And UC Davis and Orange Coast have raced each other certainly throughout this springtime. They are close rivals with each other. But right now, Orange Coast with the upper hand over Davis just by about a couple of seats. In 4th, we're going to move over to lane 5. That's Purdue. So Purdue in 4th and sitting with about 3 seats over Michigan State in 5th. And then finally, Washington State in the 6th place position. So Washington State, a club program that rows in Spokane. They have both men and the women in their club program. So really cool to see them here and doing a great job in this A and B semifinal. But right now, Michigan making a statement, but they've got to watch out for Orange Coast. We know that Orange Coast is capable of creating a very solid freshman novice program. And I'm sure that Orange Coast is not going to let go and let Michigan walk away any farther. So this will be interesting to watch. Whitney, what do you think?
Now, I could not be more excited about watching this race. And look at this beautiful flying V that we've already created here with our leaders. But all of these boats are connected, and you are right. Orange Coast College is not going to make this easy. This is their bread and butter boat, and they are going to be very excited to throw down the best race that they can execute, under the guidance of Coach Cam Brown, who is also our ACRA president and leader. So, Coast always has something to prove when they come out here, which makes it so exciting to see them come out and race. And I'd love to ask you, as a big boat rower, what does it feel like to be this close in a race like this, right in the middle of all the action?
Well, it's all about keeping your head in the boat and listening to your coxswain. Again, one of the things that's really unique about rowing is, it's not a contact sport. You have to have your strategy, you have to have your race plan, and no matter what's happening outside, you have to stick to your race plan because, it's not over until it's over. You have to know what your strengths are. Of course, crews and coaches, they look at the speeds of the other boat. They look at times, they look at technique, they can look at video and all that. But really, it's all about that strategy and sticking to your strategy. So there's not, a whole lot of playing defense or offense. I think you can try to respond if you see another crew that's making a move. But it's nerve-wracking. I mean, it's all about who can stay calm, who can keep their heads in the boat, as we say.
I have to say, too, as a coxswain as well, with so much going on, it looks like we've even got a little bit of breeze coming across the water, just kind of ruining the glass just a little bit. But you're sitting in the middle of all the action here. And like you said it perfectly, just keeping a cool head, staying calm, because you cannot win this race by yourself, right? So you have to go with your crew. You can't take it alone.
That's right. And of course, there's no quarterback in rowing. There's no star forward. So, you might have one athlete that maybe has a little better erg, maybe a little bit taller, stronger, whatever. But that one person is not going to win this whole race. But right now, Michigan's doing something right because they have that lead over Orange Coast, and they have indeed pulled away with a little bit of open water. So Orange Coast now separating themselves out behind them. We've got open water between themselves and that third place crew. So really tight between UC Davis and Purdue. Purdue now pushing themselves into the third place spot. tight between Davis now and Michigan State. So if we can get a little bit better view, I'm going to give a slight advantage for fourth going to Michigan State. UC Davis maybe slipping back to fifth. Washington State continuing in sixth. All right, get your cheering out because Michigan State and Orange Coast, they are doing such a nice job and really showing some expertise as they move through these final strokes coming into the final 250.
Now, one thing Coast has going for them, I have to say, is pride. As we've talked about once or twice before, if you listen really closely, I'm not sure if we'll hear it, but you'll hear the 1-2 Go Coast from the shoreline. They have a huge support system of alumni. But, I mean, look at Michigan. They're walking away with it.
Michigan, such a strong program. I mean, these guys really just showing that they are the future of this program. They've already got one length of open water over Coast. I can't wait for that grand final tomorrow because it is just going to be a barn burner. Right now, we're looking at Michigan, open water over Coast. Back to them, really, really tight between Purdue, Davis, and even MSU. So really great racing here as these crews wind up with their final strokes. Michigan, that will be them with their bow first across the line to get into that grand final. And now here comes Coast. But then is it going to be Davis? Is it going to be Purdue? All the way down to the wire on this one. Wow, that was exciting. We're going to wait for those official times to pop up. I'm going to take my guesses right here. But indeed, it was Purdue overtaking Davis for that final grand final qualifying position. But it was so close. And we've already had a start in our next semifinal. This is 6 boats on the course. In lane 1, Southern California. Lane 2, Connecticut. Lane 3, UCLA. Lane 4, Virginia, Lane 5, Grand Valley, and Lane 6, University of North Carolina. All right. And again, like, you know, Whitney and I get really excited here watching these crews as they come down the course. But one thing that's fun to look at is the times coming out of the heats from yesterday. So indeed, Michigan did have the fastest time by about 6 seconds over the rest of the field. But then it is really, really tight between the remaining crews. Grand Valley, UCLA, Purdue, Virginia, Orange Coast. I mean, it is going to be so tight to get into that grand final. So right now, as we come down the race course, we are looking at our early leader, UCLA, the Bruins, rowing out of Marina del Rey. They have had an amazing season this year, led by the indomitable Paul Wilkins. They are sitting with a 4-seat advantage right now over Virginia. Virginia sitting 6 seats over both Connecticut and Southern California. In 5th, we're going to move back over to lane 5. That's Grand Valley. Grand Valley sitting bow to stern over UNC. All right, and all crews just shy of 1,000 meters, and we do have a new leader. That will be Virginia. Virginia now sitting 3 seats, 4 seats over UCLA. Virginia rowing at 36 strokes a minute. We'll get a stroke rating here on UCLA. UCLA 35. Back to them, bow to stern back. It's really, really tight for that third place spot. It's going to be either USC, Southern California, or Connecticut, or Grand Valley. Back in the trailing position, it will be North Carolina. So we're going to keep our eyes on Southern California, Connecticut, and Grand Valley for that third place position. But up front, Virginia and UCLA, so close. And, you know, anything can happen here, especially at that 1,000-meter line. They're just about ready to cross over. And that third 500, that's really where it's at. So a little bit of information about USC. I was able to talk to their coach, John Cates, talk to their athletes, and they are all true novices. The program was essentially put on complete hold and cut from the university. They were not allowed to train. They were not allowed to compete or do anything. So they are starting with a complete blank slate this year. They've got a new coach. Every single person on that team is new, and they're fired up. So they have, you know, made it into this A and B semifinal, which is a testament to not only the spirit, but that focus on fitness, that focus on teamwork, a great coach as well. So, you know, really nice job here with Southern California. Definitely hit hard by COVID regulations, but here they are at the ACRA National Championship. All right, so Virginia now looking at a bow to stern advantage over UCLA. Again, this is going to come down to how we strategize going in to the final 500 meters and what we want our race piece to finish as. If you look like you're in a comfortable position coming into the final 500 meters, you know, what is the strategy? You want to conserve a little bit of energy, right? But you also don't want to shut it down. But Virginia looking at maybe a little bit of open water now over UCLA, but for that third place spot, it is so tight between Southern California, Connecticut, and Grand Valley. Let's see if we can get them into a little bit better vision. It looks like Southern California has overtaken Connecticut. So Connecticut slipping back to 5th. And so now that race is really going to be between Southern California and Grand Valley for the third place spot. This is a great race for USC. Southern California out in that far lane, they have really put on quite a show here. They have taken away even a little bit of that lead that UCLA had. Right now it's all about Virginia. They have that open water advantage, but look at this. USC coming up to potentially challenge UCLA for that second place position. It's really, really tight there for USC and Grand Valley. But let's see who's got it in the tank in these final strokes. There it is for Virginia. Here comes UCLA. And all the way down to the wire. Oh, so close between USC and Grand Valley. I'm not going to make a call on it. I'm going to wait for that official results to come through. And there it is. Grand Valley was able to hold on to that third place position. Southern California just barely missing out on making that grand final. What an exciting race. We're going to move back over to the start. We'll get these lanes set for you in just a minute.
And we have a start. That is for the men's novice 8 third semifinal. Looks like we've had just a couple little steering issues here, but not too many. They should be on track, hopefully through that 100-meter breakage point. And in lane 1, we have Oregon. Lane 2, Washington. Lane 3, Clemson. Lane 4, UMass. Lane 5, Middlebury. And lane 6, Minnesota. And let's see in this race if we have anybody with a mullet, a bucket hat, maybe some pit vipers. We want some free speed. They're going to need everything that they can get in order to gain the lead in some of these races. This has been exciting in these novice 8s.
I think it's all about the pit vipers. I don't know. I'm going to place my bets on that one. That seems to be the popular fashion accessory for speed this year. But right now, with our early lead, it is going to be University of Massachusetts. They have poked their nose out just a little bit in front of Clemson. So Clemson in the second place position. In third, right next to them, it will be Washington out of St. Louis, Missouri. Next to them in the fourth place spot, it will be Middlebury. And then in fifth and sixth, too close to call between Minnesota and Oregon. So we'll let a little bit of time elapse, a little bit of space on the race course elapse while these crews shake out and get into their base pace.
Take a better line.
All right, we're looking at a really beautiful overhead shot here. We've got just kind of that chevron pattern coming down, the V, the flying V as we come down the race course. University of Massachusetts continuing to hold on to this top spot, now sitting bow to stern over Clemson. Clemson sitting bow to stern over both Washington and Middlebury. Back to those crews by about 6 seats, it will be Oregon pushing themselves into the fifth place position, and then finally Minnesota. But one of the things that Whitney and I were taking a look at, again, the vantage point of having this drone is that you get to see the different boat configurations. And we are looking at a bucket rig in that Middlebury boat. And, what's the advantage to having a bucket rig is basically where you have two oarsmen of both of the same side right next to each other. So in this case, with the Middlebury crew, you have two starboard side rowers sitting one right in front of the other. What would be the reason for that, Whitney?
That's a really good question. Some coaches see an advantage to it and some don't. So it really balances out the power a little bit and helps keep your boat go a little bit straighter. So it kind of depends on, what the makeup of your crew is. If you maybe have more guys on one side that are a little bit stronger, you can kind of put a little bit more power in the bow to maybe keep it going a little bit straighter down the lane. So it kind of just depends on where you want to put each guy. And then if your boat's not going straight, then some coaches will kind of try to finagle a little bit with the rigging and see if they can even it out a little bit.
And on that note, it's really, the coxswain is the steersperson in the boat. But the idea, especially with a 2,000-meter course, is that you don't steer, right? I mean, the more that you steer, the more that you're slowing down the boat. Every time you move that tiny little rudder, you're slowing down the boat. So the idea of using the bucket rig could be to balance it out to make sure that that boat goes as straight as possible. Would you agree?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the thing that a lot of people don't know, too, maybe the rowers, of course, but those little steering mechanisms are the size of a credit card. So, your rudder is the size of a credit card. You're steering a 59 to 63-foot boat, with 8 guys or 8 women in it. And it makes a big difference. It takes about 3 seconds for those boats to respond. So if you put on the rudder any direction, you may start veering off to one side way more than you intend to. So you have to be very, very careful touching those ropes and those little toggles.
And even though these courses are fully buoyed and, they really shouldn't have any problem steering that boat straight, sometimes if you have a little bit of a bobble on the port side or the starboard side, that can throw the trajectory of your boat off course. So, again, coxswain is completely key in getting their crews down the race course in fine fashion. Massachusetts right now still holding on to that lead, looking at a second place position over Clemson. And let's see if we can get a little bit of a different view. I'm going to use my binoculars and stand up here to see where exactly we're at on the race course with these crews. This has actually stayed pretty tight in this C&D semifinal. We're looking at a lead from start to this point from the University of Massachusetts, but let's see how it shakes out between Clemson and Middlebury for that second or third place position.
Yeah, I also don't want to overlook very quickly that we are 5:55 into this race and moving into those red buoys. That is a fast race for a novice 8. So I definitely don't want to overlook here the accomplishment that these 8s, these 8s are doing a great job. 6:09, here we go. What have you got for us?
Yeah, that's a pretty fast time actually coming into this. And, there's definitely not a tailwind. I don't really think there's a lick of any wind going on out there. So these crews laying down some pretty fast times, and this is just a semifinal. So again, can't wait for tomorrow. Those, the grand finals, the petite finals, C-level and D-level finals, they are all going to be nail biters. But right now, Massachusetts doing an amazing job here. They have continued to hold the lead, and Clemson in second. But now that race for third, that's the one that's tight. We're looking at Oregon pushing themselves into third. Right behind them, Washington with Middlebury right there. Minnesota in sixth, but wow, what a race here. Oregon just kind of snuck up on me. Oregon pushing themselves into third, Middlebury in fourth, Washington in fifth, and then Minnesota in sixth. I'll make sure to call that correctly for that fourth and fifth place spot. Yep, that would be Middlebury.
These are Grant's boys.
Washington in fifth, Minnesota in sixth. That was a great race, and we're moving into the final semifinal of the men's novice 8s. 6 boats again on the course. In lane 1, Wichita State. Lane 2, Boston College. Lane 3, Central Florida. Lane 4, UC Irvine. Lane 5, George Washington University. Lane 6, Pittsburgh. And we are awaiting a start.
All right, we're going to pick you up here about a minute and a half into this race. Crews should be kind of settling in now to the body of the race here, and it's looking like our leader, lane 4, is going to be UC Irvine. Again, those anteaters coming from Southern California. Lane 3 in second place will be Central Florida. In that third place position is going to be lane 2, Boston College. Lane 1, Wichita State, followed by Pittsburgh in lane 5. But again, kind of have 2 boat races going here. Bow ball to bow ball. look at this. I mean, Central Florida and UCI already 2 minutes, 2:15 in here, and we are bow ball to bow ball, maybe a deck down on Central Florida, maybe. But this is going to be tight. We've got a few boat races going on here.
Yeah, and we have definitely seen it kind of change back and forth here. UC Irvine was really hot off the start, but Central Florida caught them. They were even for a bit. Central Florida pushed their bow ball a little bit ahead. But now Irvine responding to that push by Central Florida and making a great move here. Maybe the coxswain's calling for a power 10. Maybe she's calling for maybe a little bit faster stroke rating or maybe more power. But whatever it is, it's working for Irvine as they push themselves just a little bit farther away from Central Florida. Third place is going to belong to Boston College. Boston College sitting about 6 seats over lane 1, Wichita State. Wichita State maybe about 2 seats over Pittsburgh. So lane 5 is open. George Washington was a scratch. So just important to note there will be no crew coming down lane 5. You're going to be looking at Pittsburgh along the shoreline. But Irvine, as your leader, just 3 seats over Central Florida. We'll see if they can hold on to it at the halfway point.
Yeah, and you said something really important there, hot off the start with UCI. And one thing I wanted to point out was we actually did have a little bit of steering issue with UCI off the start, and that can be really dangerous, really detrimental in those first 100 meters because it's kind of hard to straighten back out and get your crew right back on track. And remember, the goal here is to do 2,000 meters, not 2001. So we want to make sure that we keep those boats directly down the center of that lane.
That is true. You do not want to make a tour of the race course at all. And again, it was just off the start. There tends to be a lot of excitement, a lot of adrenaline. Sometimes the blades aren't completely buried for that start. We talked about this earlier this morning where it's incredibly difficult to get that boat speed up and running. You've got a boat that's 59, 60 feet long. You've got an incredible amount of mass in the boat, and you have to go from a dead stop to full racing speed in a matter of a minute or so. And so sometimes that, it gets a little bit scrambly, but the goal for the coxswain is to key her rowers back in to that mindset where they're just keeping their heads in the boat and focusing on what is happening in their boat, not worrying about the course, not worrying about what's happening next to them. So Irvine and Central Florida, really great job here as they push each other and push themselves a little bit farther away from everyone else. But right now, really close between these two crews. I'm not even going to give an advantage to either of those. And those of you guys watching the screen, you're going to see that right here too. It's just back and forth between these two boats.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these men's crews here coming into the 1500, I mean, some of these 8s are like getting a freight train going. And once they get up and running, there's no stopping them. And look you can see the Central Florida coxswain getting a little bit excited there. They're going to have something to prove. They've been working really, really hard over COVID with their 2 coaches, again, that used to be athletes themselves. And it's essentially an athlete-run program, again, which we're seeing a lot today. And they are really proving themselves against UCI, which has a long history of excellence, as you said.
Well, and as we come into the final strokes here, 300 meters or so to go. So for those of you watching on the live stream, when they get to those red buoys, that means sprints. So the red buoys mean the final 250 meters, and that is where you're bringing that boat home. You're bringing the stroke rating up, maybe shortening up just a little bit to tick that boat up to maybe even 40 strokes a minute. So it's really just legs on fire, lungs on fire, everything you've got until you cross that finish line. So back and forth here between Central Florida and Irvine. I'm not going to predict what's going to happen. It's really who is the most effective in the water at these high strokes. Boston College continuing in 3rd. Pittsburgh pushing themselves into 4th place. Wichita State falling back just a little bit to 5th. But look at this all the way down to the line.
Now, this
is just a back and forth battle here. Final strokes, Central Florida or Irvine, too close to call. All right, and for those of you guys who are looking at the screen on the live stream, that is incorrect. Central Florida did take the lead, but it is Irvine that's in that second place position. So we'll look for a correction. Again, these are all unofficial times.